Dear viewers, this is the fifth video on the same essay on history written by Thomas Carlyle. Earlier we discussed the history, how it is defined by Thomas Carlyle, and what are the dimensions of history, and what is the vastness of history, and how it records and what it records. All that we discussed in the last four videos. Those views discussed in the previous class are actual events and their relation in history. Historian to be free from pretensions, and past leading to guess the present and future. So these dimensions we discussed in the last four videos. Now let us have another session of discussion on the same essay on history to enable you people to answer the questions expecting essay type answers in the examination, and to familiarize different types of questions and to guide you people how to write short notes, and also to make you practice how to analyze views of the writer, and also let us go through a list of the views that we discussed in the whole essay that can be recapitulated now in this session, and that gives you an idea of the total theme of this essay after the discussion. So see, there shall be short notes on how history a root of all sciences, how every individual a historian, writing history highest art, and what are the two difficulties, so philosophy and experience. So these may be covered in short note questions. And for questions of essay type answers, see, you will have to write more than 1.5 a page because it carries 8 marks. So definition of history and its dimensions, that's overall theme has to be covered. Let's see, these are the different dimensions and definitions. Root of all sciences, what all it records, true basis of wisdom, philosophy teaching by experience, consciousness of mankind, and half conscious of mankind, and difficulty of perfection, and events imperceivably in interrelated manner. History is an incomplete one. So how these are discussed in the essay, we will have to discuss them. Now let me give you some highlighting points with which you can completely understand the total theme and the total views of the writer Thomas Carlyle, and thereby you can understand how history is defined by the writer Thomas Carlyle, and also what different dimensions he has discussed in this essay, that you could easily catch when I give you the list of those viewpoints on the whole essay to make you understand the total theme of this essay. See, history is defined as a root of all sciences. How? It contains different branches of knowledge. It contains every part of life, and that's why life includes everything. And so history should not leave anything outside its world, and that's why it is the root of all sciences. And it is so essential and born with the tribes of mankind. So it is born with tribes of mankind. That's why he says there may be a community or there may be a tribe without having arithmetic even to count 5, but there cannot be a tribe without history. So he says that. And then history is not just a collection of information. It is the highest art. History is not just collection of information of the past. It is the highest art. So it has to be built, or history has to be written with some artistic qualities, and that attracts the readers. And this is one more quality of history. Then history first was produced by some of the important historians, and such important historians are mentioned in this essay by Thomas Carlyle, that Hume, Robertson, Herodotus and Froissart, so on and so forth. Such historians are mentioned here. History is the mother of all sciences, all branches of knowledge, and that's why it is the root of all sciences. In the beginning itself it is said by the writer. It has all the branches. He says we can read poetry in history, we can read theology in history, we can read politics in history, we can read physics in history. So all these branches are there. Sometimes they seem to be defensive to each other, and sometimes they seem to be offensive to each other, and sometimes there both these types of wars happen between them. So this is philosophy teaching by experience. And then history is not an independent branch of knowledge. It can also be in other branches also. History can also be in other branches. For example, history is in literature also. So here an example is given by the writer that Marlborough, who read Shakespeare's plays, he could also collect some information of history. And Carlyle very meticulously points out how history functions and what it records. How history functions and what it records. And that is also well said by Carlyle in this whole essay. He mentions two difficulties of a historian while he produces history. One is the difficulty of philosophy in readiness, and another is the record of experience. So philosophy in readiness and record of experience. These two are the difficulties while a historian encounters, because it is very tough to keep philosophy ready in hand, and also it is very complex. Experience itself is very complex, and that's why it's not easily recorded. It is not perfectly recorded, and that's why record of experience is always imperfect. And these two things are always tough things or difficult things for a historian. And then he says how life is tough to be recorded because of its variations in outward figure of life, and also the inward condition of life, because conscious aim of mankind and half conscious aim of mankind, these two stand different from age to age, and that makes us very tough to record life. And then he mentions some groups long forgotten. So long forgotten groups he mentions. And he tells about the chief benefactors. They are the kings and battles. It is very usual that the pages of history, the majority of the pages of history, are filled with the subject of kings and battles. That's why they are the chief benefactors. But at the same time, there are few groups of the people from the society that they are neglected, they are long forgotten. And then this experience being very imperfect, with which that philosophy is to teach, and that is another difficulty and another very complex thing that a historian should manage and handle. And then he is very much worried of the fatal discrepancy. He is very much worried of the fatal discrepancy. What is that fatal discrepancy? Fatal discrepancy is our manner of observation differs from their manner of occurrence. So how a particular incident happens or occurs, in what manner that particular incident occurs, may be different from in what manner we observe it. And this leads to a fatal discrepancy while we record those incidents in the pages of history with the help of our observation. And then he says that there are two sciences, one omniscience, another human science. Omniscience is only with the power of divinity. Only he means only God can be omniscient. But historian is a human being, and he should think and he should produce history, he should collect information, he should select information only with the help of human science. And it is his limitation. And at last, how a historian searches and searches more and more for what he tells, and finally history also prophecies. How does history prophesy? So that is also very beautifully pointed out in this essay. So with all these points of views, we can completely understand history according to Thomas Carlyle, with his definition of history and with his different dimensions. He mentions different dimensions of history we can understand. So with these points of views, you shall be able to answer either short notes or the essay type answers. So that is important thing for you, because you are supposed to write the short and long answers in the examination. And these points of views that I made out, these points of views that I listed out to you people, that I think helps you a lot to elaborate these points as the good answers from the examination point of view. And with this much, I put an end to this presentation as the last video on the same topic on history by Thomas Carlyle. Thank you.